The worst timing ever. Emma Hayes clutched her third glass of champagne. Like it was a life raft, keeping her from drowning in a sea of romantic bliss. All around her, the Belmore estate sparkled with fairy lights and expensive floral arrangements. Crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows across marble floors, while a string quartet played something elegant and timeless. Her best friend Jennifer looked absolutely radiant in her wedding dress, practically glowing as she twirled across the dance floor with her new husband. Meanwhile, Emma felt like a complete disaster in her emerald bridesmaid dress that cost more than her monthly rent. The timing of this wedding could not have been worse. Just 5 days ago, her boyfriend of 2 years had dumped her via a carefully worded email. An email, like she was a subscription service he wanted to cancel. The message had been full of corporate buzzwords about different trajectories and misaligned goals, as if their relationship was a failed business merger. Then yesterday, her boss had passed her over for a promotion she had worked toward for 18 months, giving it instead to someone who had been there half as long. So yes, she was drinking champagne at an open bar like it was her job. And honestly, at this point, maybe it should be. A stranger's kind. Emma wobbled slightly as she reached for another glass from the passing waiter. The room tilted just enough to make her grab the edge of the bar for support. Careful there. A warm voice spoke from beside her. Those bubbles are sneaky. She turned to find a man standing next to her at the bar. Tall, probably around 6 feet, with dark brown hair that fell perfectly across his forehead without looking like he tried too hard. He wore a charcoal suit that fit him like it was made specifically for his broad shoulders. His eyes were a striking hazel that seemed to shift between green and gold in the light. "I'm fine," Emma said, though her slight slur suggested otherwise. "Perfectly fine. Never been better, actually." Corner of his mouth lifted. "Sure, that's why you're death-gripping that champagne flute like it contains the secrets of the universe." Despite herself, Emma laughed. Maybe it does. Maybe the secret of the universe is that everything is terrible, and champagne makes it slightly less terrible. "That's pretty dark for a wedding," he observed, signaling the bartender. "Whiskey neat, and some water for the lady." "I don't need water," Emma protested. "I need more champagne and possibly a time machine or a new life. Either would work. How about we start with the water and see how you feel?" There was something gentle in his tone that made Emma's defensive walls crack just a little. She found herself studying him more carefully. He had an easy confidence about him, the kind that came from someone comfortable in their own skin. But there was also something in his eyes, a tiredness maybe, or a wariness that suggested he understood more than he let on. Truth serum in a glass. Bartender placed a glass of water in front of Emma. She stared at it like it had personally offended her. "You want to know what's really funny?" she heard herself say. The champagne had apparently destroyed whatever filter existed between her brain and her mouth. "I spent the last 6 months helping Jennifer plan this wedding. 6 months of choosing between ivory and eggshell napkins like it was a life or death decision. 6 months of pretending to care about centerpieces and seating charts while my own life was falling apart." The stranger she should probably ask his name leaned against the bar and listened without interruption. My ex, Emma continued, the words pouring out like water from a broken dam. "He broke up with me because I'm not ambitious enough. Can you believe that? 2 years together, and apparently I was just holding him back from his destiny as a corporate success story. Never mind that I was the one who supported him through his career changes and late nights and stress." "Sounds like he was an idiot," the man said simply. Emma blinked. "You don't even know me. I know enough. I know you're loyal enough to help plan your best friend's wedding even when you're hurting. I know you're honest enough to admit when things are hard. Those aren't small things." Something warm bloomed in Emma's chest that had nothing to do with the alcohol. "Who are you? Some kind of wedding philosopher? Just someone who recognizes pain when he sees it?" Extended his hand. "Ryan." Emma. She shook his hand, noticing how warm and steady his grip was. "So what's your story, Ryan? You can't just show up at a wedding, drop wisdom, and not share your own damage." He laughed, a genuine sound that made his eyes crinkle at the corners. "Fair enough. Let's see. I work too much. I have trouble remembering the last time I did something just because I wanted to, not because I had to. And I'm starting to think I've spent so long building a life that looks successful on paper that I forgot to build one that actually feels good. Unexpected honesty. Emma found herself leaning closer, fascinated despite her champagne haze. That's remarkably honest for someone I just met. Started it, Ryan pointed out. Besides, there's something freeing about talking to a stranger at a wedding. No history, no expectations. Just honesty. Just honesty, Emma repeated, taking a sip of the water. It did help, actually, though she would never admit it. Okay then, honestly? I'm terrified. I'm 29 years old and I feel like everyone around me has figured out this secret to life that I'm missing. My best friend just married someone whose family owns half the real estate in this city. My ex is probably already dating someone more ambitious. And I'm standing at a bar pouring my heart out to a stranger because I have no idea what I'm doing with my life. Welcome to the club, Ryan said softly. Population, everyone, even if they pretend otherwise. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. The music shifted to something slower, more romantic. Couples drifted onto the dance floor, wrapped up in their own worlds. Can I tell you something else? Emma asked, the champagne still loosening her tongue. Something really pathetic? Nothing you say could be pathetic. When I was little, I used to imagine my wedding day. Not the dress or the flowers or any of that. Just that moment when someone would look at me the way Jennifer's husband looks at her. Like I'm the most important person in their world. Like they can't believe how lucky they are. Her voice cracked slightly. I'm starting to think that doesn't exist. At least not for me. Ryan's expression shifted into something fierce and protective. That's not true. How would you know? Because I'm looking at you that way right now. The dance that changed everything, the words hung in the air between them, charged with electricity. Emma's heart hammered against her ribs. You don't mean that? She whispered. You're just being nice to the sad, drunk bridesmaid. Ryan set down his whiskey glass and turned to face her fully. I mean it. From the moment you started talking, I couldn't look away. The way you think, the way you feel things so deeply, the way you're brave enough to be vulnerable even when it scares you. That's rare. That's special. Tears pricked at Emma's eyes. You're dangerous, you know that? How so? Because you're making me want to believe in things again. Hope. Connection. The possibility that maybe I'm not as broken as I think I am. You're not broken at all, Ryan said firmly. You're just human. And being human means feeling things, getting hurt sometimes, but also experiencing moments of real connection. Like this one. The music swelled around them. Emma could see Jennifer across the room, laughing with wedding guests, completely in her element. For the first time all night, Emma felt genuinely happy for her friend instead of bitter about her own situation. Dance with me, Ryan said suddenly, offering his hand. I'm drunk, Emma warned. I'll probably step on your very expensive shoes. I'll risk it. She placed her hand in his, letting him lead her onto the dance floor. His hand settled at her waist, warm and steady, while their fingers intertwined. They moved slowly, swaying more than actually dancing, but it felt perfect. This is nice, Emma murmured, resting her head against his shoulder. Through the fog of champagne, she felt strangely safe, like maybe the universe hadn't completely abandoned her after all. Yeah, Ryan agreed quietly. It really is. As they danced, Emma felt something shift inside her. The pain of her breakup, the disappointment of her career setback, it all faded into background noise. Right now, in this moment, wrapped in the arms of a kind stranger who looked at her like she mattered, she felt seen, valued, maybe even cherished. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For listening. For being honest? For making me feel like maybe I'm not completely losing my mind? Ryan pulled back, just enough to look into her eyes. Emma, you're not losing your mind. You're just finding your courage. And I think that's incredibly brave. Before she could overthink it, before fear could stop her, Emma lifted onto her toes and kissed him. It was soft, tentative, tasting of champagne and whiskey and possibility. For a heartbeat, Ryan froze. Then his hand came up to cup her cheek, and he kissed her back with a tenderness that made her knees weak. When they finally pulled apart, both slightly breathless, Emma felt her face flush hot. I probably shouldn't have done that. I'm glad you did, Ryan said, his thumb brushing across her cheekbone. I've wanted to kiss you since you started talking about the secrets of the universe. They stood there on the dance floor, the world spinning around them, holding on to each other like they were the only solid thing in a sea of uncertainty. Emma knew that tomorrow she might regret this. Tomorrow, sober and clear-headed, she might cringe at everything she had revealed. But right now, she chose to be brave. Right now, she chose hope. Can I have your number? Ryan asked. I want to see you again. Sober in daylight, with no champagne involved. Emma's heart soared even as doubt whispered warnings. Okay, yes, but fair warning I might wake up. Tomorrow, completely mortified by everything I told you. Tonight, then I'll spend. Tomorrow, reminding you that you were perfect. Exactly as you were. As Emma pulled out her phone with shaking hands to exchange numbers. She caught sight of Jennifer watching them from across the room. Her friend's face lit up with delighted surprise, and she gave Emma an enthusiastic thumbs up. Emma couldn't help but smile back. Maybe, just maybe, this disaster of a night was actually the beginning of something wonderful. Maybe champagne confessions and unexpected connections were exactly what she needed. Maybe Ryan was right, and she wasn't broken at all. She was just human, and that was enough. The headache and the messages woke up to sunlight stabbing through her curtains like tiny daggers of regret. Her head throbbed with the kind of hangover that made her question every life choice she had ever made. She groaned and rolled over, immediately regretting the movement as her stomach lurched. Fragments of the previous night floated through her memory like broken glass. The champagne, the bar, the conversation with someone, dancing. Oh God, had she kissed someone? She forced her eyes open and reached for her phone on the nightstand. The screen showed 11:47 a.m. and a series of text messages from numbers she recognized. And one she did not. Jennifer had sent approximately 15 excited messages, each one more enthusiastic than the last. Who was that gorgeous man? Emma, you dark horse. Call me immediately. But it was the unknown number that made Emma's heart skip a beat. Good morning. I hope you're feeling okay today. Last night was incredible. I meant everything I said. Ryan. Another message followed 20 minutes later. I know you're probably mortified right now. Please don't be. You are brave and honest and beautiful. I want to see you again. Emma sat up too quickly and had to wait for the room to stop spinning. Memories came flooding back with painful clarity. She had told a complete stranger about her breakup, her career disappointments, her fears about ending up alone. She had rambled about the meaning of love and marriage and her pathetic childhood dreams. She had kissed him. Oh no, she whispered to her empty apartment. Oh no, no, no. The courage to respond. I spent the next hour in damage control mode. She took a long shower, drank 3 glasses of water, and made toast she could barely stomach. The whole time, her phone sat on the counter, Ryan's messages glowing like accusations. Part of her wanted to ignore them. She could pretend last night never happened, delete his number, and live the rest of her life in blissful denial. But another part of her, the part that remembered how safe she felt in his arms. How seen she felt when he looked at her, wanted to be brave again. Finally, she picked up the phone and typed with trembling fingers. Hi, I'm alive. Barely. I'm so sorry about last night. I said way too much, and probably made a complete fool of myself. I understand if you want to forget the whole thing. His response came almost immediately. The only thing I want to forget is the idea that you should be sorry. Have coffee with me today, please. I promise to bring painkillers and no judgment. Emma stared at the message, her heart doing complicated gymnastics in her chest. This was insane. She didn't know anything about this man except that he had kind eyes and said exactly the right things. He could be anyone: a serial killer, a con artist, someone who made a hobby of collecting drunk bridesmaids. Sob stories, but he could also be exactly who he seemed. Someone genuine who saw her at her worst and still wanted more. Okay, she typed back, but somewhere quiet. My head is killing me and I look like death. Could never look like death. How about Morrison's Cafe in an hour? It's low-key, and they make excellent coffee. The coffee shop, Truth Morrison's Cafe, was a small, neighborhood spot with mismatched furniture and the kind of relaxed atmosphere that made Emma's hangover slightly more bearable. She arrived 15 minutes early, partially because she was nervous and partially because she wanted to scope out the exit routes in case. This turned out to be a horrible mistake. She was nursing her second cup of coffee when Ryan walked in, and Emma's breath caught despite herself. In the harsh light of day, without the romantic glow of wedding lights and champagne haze, he was still devastatingly attractive. He wore jeans and a simple blue sweater that made his hazel eyes look more green than gold. When he spotted her, his entire face lit up with a smile so genuine it made her chest ache. "Hey," he said, sliding into the seat across from her. "You look beautiful." Emma laughed, a sound somewhere between amusement and disbelief. "I look like a hungover mess, and we both know it." "It's a beautiful hungover mess," Ryan insisted, his eyes crinkling with warmth. "How are you feeling?" "Like I want to crawl into a hole and never speak to another human being again," Emma admitted. "I can't believe I told you all of that stuff. I can't believe I kissed you. I'm normally not that person." "What person?" "Honest, brave, willing to take an emotional risk." "Drunk and oversharing," Emma corrected. Though his words made something warm unfurl in her stomach, Ryan leaned forward, his expression becoming serious. "Emma, I need you to understand something. Last night wasn't some drunk mistake or embarrassing incident to forget. It was real. You were real. And I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since." Learning the truth, they talked for 2 hours, the coffee growing cold as the conversation flowed easily. In the sober light of day, Emma discovered that Ryan was funny and thoughtful, asking questions about her work and her life that showed genuine interest. He told her about his own struggles with work-life balance, about feeling trapped by expectations and responsibilities. "I'm in technology," he said when she asked about his career. "Software development and investment. It's demanding, and sometimes I wonder if I've let it take over my entire life." "That sounds stressful," Emma said sympathetically. "Do you enjoy it?" Ryan hesitated, stirring his coffee even though he had not added anything to it. "I used to. Now I'm not sure if I love it or if I'm just good at it. There's a difference, you know." "I definitely know," Emma agreed. "I've been doing marketing for a company that makes industrial equipment for 5 years. It pays the bills, but it doesn't make my heart sing, you know. Sometimes I think about doing something completely different, but then I get scared." "Scared of what?" "Failure. Making the wrong choice? Being one of those people who throws away a stable career chasing some dream that never materializes?" She paused, then added quietly, "My ex always said I was too cautious, that I was afraid to take risks." Ryan's jaw tightened slightly. "Your ex sounds like he didn't appreciate what he had." "Maybe he was right, though. Maybe I am too cautious." "Or maybe," Ryan said gently, "you're just careful with your heart." "That's not a weakness, Emma. That's wisdom." Their eyes met across the small table, and Emma felt that same electric connection from the night before. Sober, in daylight, it was somehow even stronger. "Can I ask you something?" Emma said, gathering her courage. "Why me? You could probably have your pick of women. Why are you interested in the disaster bridesmaid who ugly cried into her champagne?" Ryan reached across the table and took her hand. "Because you're real. Because in a room full of people performing their best versions of themselves, you were courageously honest. Because when you talked about your fears and dreams, I saw someone who feels things deeply and isn't afraid to admit it. That's rare, Emma. That's precious." Emma felt tears threatening and blinked them back. "You barely know me, and let me know you better. Have dinner with me tomorrow. And the day after that, let me prove that this isn't just some wedding night fantasy. Let me show you that what I feel is real." It's the research revelation that evening, back in her apartment. Emma did what any reasonable person would do after an intense coffee date with a near stranger. She Googled him. Ryan Bennett. Technology software, she typed, expecting maybe a LinkedIn profile or a company website. What she got instead made her drop her phone. The screen filled with images and articles. Ryan Bennett, tech mogul, announces new venture. Bennett Industries reaches billion-dollar valuation. Ryan Bennett named 2 Forbes 30 under 30, and there, In a society column from 3 months ago, tech billionaire Ryan Bennett, brother of real estate heir Thomas Bennett, spotted at charity gala. Thomas Bennett, Jennifer's new husband. Emma's hands shook as she scrolled through article after article. Ryan was not just successful. He was wildly, impossibly wealthy. He had founded a software company at 23 that revolutionized data security. He had invested in a dozen successful startups. He owned properties in 5 cities. He was regularly photographed at high society events, always looking polished and perfect, usually with beautiful women on his arm. This was the man who had listened to her, complain about her tiny apartment and her stagnant career. This was the man she had cried to about feeling like a failure. Her phone buzzed with a new message. Dinner tomorrow at Rosario's. It's a small Italian place, nothing fancy. I want to hear more about your dreams of doing something that makes your heart sing. Emma stared at the message, then back at the Forbes article declaring his net worth in the hundreds of millions. She thought about the way he had looked at her, the way he had held her while they danced, the genuine interest in his eyes when they talked about ordinary things like work stress and life. Disappointments. He had not mentioned any of this. He had let her think he was just a regular wedding guest with a demanding job. The confrontation, his fingers flew across her keyboard. Why didn't you tell me who you are? The response came after a long pause. Can we talk about this in person? Please? You're a billionaire. You're Jennifer's brother-in-law. You're all over the internet, and you let me ramble about my pathetic life like you were just some regular guy? Her phone rang. Emma hesitated, then answered. I'm sorry. Ryan's voice came through, strained and sincere. I should have told you sooner. But Emma, please understand. Do you know how rare it is for someone to talk to me like I'm just a person? Not a bank account or a business opportunity or a society page headline? That's not fair, Emma said, her voice shaking. You had information about me, my raw, honest truth, and you kept this huge part of yourself hidden. You're right. It's not fair. But I was scared. Ryan's voice cracked slightly. I was scared that if you knew, everything would change. You would start seeing me differently. Start measuring your words. Start performing instead of just being yourself. It's a pretty convenient excuse. It's not an excuse. It's the truth. Took a deep breath. Emma, I have spent years surrounded by people who only see dollar signs when they look at me. My relationships are transactional. My friendships are strategic. Even my family expects me to be a certain person, play a certain role. But with you, for the first time and longer than I can remember, I was just Ryan, just a guy talking to an amazing woman at a wedding, and it felt incredible. Emma's anger wavered but did not disappear. I told you everything. I was completely vulnerable, and you were calculating how much to reveal, no, Ryan said firmly. I wasn't calculating anything. I was being more honest with you than I have been with anyone in years. Everything I told you about feeling empty despite success, about losing myself in expectations, about wanting something real that was all true. The money doesn't change any of that. If anything, it makes it worse. The choice Emma sat in silence, processing. Part of her wanted to hang up and block his number. He had lied by omission, let her expose herself while keeping this massive secret. But another part remembered the vulnerability in his voice when he talked about his own struggles. The way his eyes had looked almost desperate when he said he wanted something real. I need to think, she finally said. But Emma, please believe me when I say the connection we have is real. The way I feel about you has nothing to do with anything except who you are. You're smart and funny and brave, and you make me want to be better. That's not about money or status. That's just about you. After they hung up, Emma lay on her couch staring at the ceiling. Her phone showed the dinner invitation, still waiting for a response. Rosario's? Nothing fancy, he had said. She looked it up. It was indeed a small Italian restaurant, with checkered tablecloths and candles and wine bottles. The kind of place anyone might choose for a casual date, Jennifer called. Emma Hayes, you have been holding out on me. Do you have any idea who that man is? I just found out, Emma admitted. Did you know? Not until Thomas told me this morning. He saw you two dancing and asked his brother about you. Emma, Ryan has never brought anyone to a family event. He usually shows up alone and leaves early. But apparently he stayed until midnight last night just talking to you. He lied to me, Jen. Or at least hid the truth. Did he, though? Jennifer's voice was gentle. Or did he just want someone to see him as a person instead of a bank account? Emma, I've only met Ryan a handful of times, but Thomas says he's lonely. Successful beyond measure, but completely isolated. Everyone wants something from him. I don't want his money, Emma said fiercely. Hey, I know that. You know that. And I bet Ryan knows that too, which is probably exactly why he likes you. After they hung up, Emma sat with her thoughts. She thought about the man who had held her while she cried, who had looked at her like she was precious, who had promised to be careful with her heart. She thought about his voice when he said he was scared, when he admitted to feeling empty despite having everything. She picked up her phone and typed, "Rosario's sounds perfect." 7 o'clock. His response was immediate. "Thank you for giving me a chance to explain. I promise to be completely honest from now on. See you tomorrow." Emma smiled despite herself. This was crazy. She was agreeing to date a billionaire who had let her ugly cry about her mediocre life. But maybe, just maybe, crazy was exactly what she needed, the Italian. Restaurantima changed outfits 4 times before settling on a simple black dress. That felt both nice enough for a date and casual enough that she was not trying too hard. She arrived at Rosario's 5 minutes late, her stomach a knot of nerves. Ryan was already there, sitting at a corner table with a candle flickering between 2 water glasses. He stood when he saw her, and the relief on his face was so obvious it made her heart squeeze. "You came," he said softly. "I almost didn't," Emma admitted, sliding into her chair. "I spent all day convincing myself this was a terrible idea, and yet here you are. I'm going to choose to be grateful instead of asking what changed your mind." The waiter appeared, and they ordered pasta for her, chicken piccata for him, and a bottle of wine to share. After the waiter left, an awkward silence fell between them. "This is weird, isn't it?" Emma finally said. "Yesterday, we were just 2 people connecting. Now I know you're this tech mogul billionaire person, and I can't stop thinking about how you probably own companies worth more than my entire neighborhood." Ryan winced. "Is that all you see now when you look at me? The money?" "I don't know what I see," Emma said honestly. "I'm trying to reconcile the Ryan who danced with me and made me feel safe with the Ryan Bennett who has a Wikipedia page." "They're the same person," Ryan said quietly. "The money is circumstantial. It's what I do, not who I am. But it changes things. You have to admit that, does it?" Ryan leaned forward. "Tell me, Emma, if I worked at the same company you do, making the same salary, would anything about our conversations have been different? Would you have felt less connected? Would I have been less honest about feeling lost and empty?" Emma opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. He had a point. The connection they felt, the way they understood each other's loneliness, that had nothing to do with bank accounts. Meeting the family, their dinner conversation gradually shifted back to easier topics. Ryan asked about her week, about her friends, about the books she was reading. Emma found herself relaxing, remembering why she had felt drawn to him in the first place. The money was just background noise when he looked at her like that, like she was the only person in the room, as they were finishing dessert. Ryan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression shifted into something resigned. "My brother wants to know if I'm free for brunch on Sunday." "Family thing." He looked up at Emma. He asked if I wanted to bring someone. Emma's stomach flipped. "You mean me?" "Only if you want to. No pressure. I know meeting the family is usually a 10th date kind of thing, but given that my brother just married your best friend, our worlds are kind of already colliding. What would I even say to them? Hi, I'm the girl your brother met when I was drunk at your wedding." Ryan laughed, the sound warm and genuine. "Or you could just be yourself. They're going to love you, Emma. How could they not?" The Bennett brunch Sunday morning found Emma standing outside an exclusive restaurant in the city's most expensive district, seriously reconsidering all her life choices. The building had actual marble columns and a doorman who looked at her, like he was calculating whether she could afford to breathe the air inside. Ryan appeared beside her, looking effortlessly perfect in slacks and a sweater. "Hey, you look terrified." That's because I am terrified. Your brother's wife is my best friend, but that doesn't mean I know how to have brunch with billionaires. We're just people. Emma, annoying, sometimes pretentious people, but still just people, took her hand. And I'll be right there with you. The brunch was held in a private dining room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Thomas Bennett looked like an older version of Ryan's same hazel eyes, same easy confidence, though his smile had a sharper edge. Jennifer was already there, and she lit up when she saw Emma. You're here. I'm so glad Ryan finally brought someone to meet us. It's nice to meet you officially, Thomas said, shaking Emma's hand. Jennifer speaks very highly of you. The meal started awkwardly. Thomas asked polite questions about Emma's work that felt like he was interviewing her for a job she did not want. His wife Jennifer kept shooting Emma, encouraging looks from across the table. Ryan's mother, Patricia Bennett, was an elegant woman with sharp eyes that seemed to miss nothing. So Emma, Patricia said, delicately cutting her poached eggs. What is it you do? I'm in marketing, Emma said, trying to keep her voice steady. Industrial equipment sales. It's not very glamorous, but it pays the bills. And is that your career goal? Industrial equipment. There was no judgment in Patricia's tone, but the question felt loaded anyway. Mom, Ryan said warningly. It's okay, Emma said, though her cheeks felt hot. Honestly, no. I've been thinking about making a change. Maybe something more creative, though I haven't figured out exactly what yet. Emma's incredibly talented, Ryan interjected. She has ideas for sustainable product design that are brilliant. She just needs the confidence to pursue them. Emma stared at him. They had talked about her vague dreams of creative work, but she had never mentioned sustainable design specifically. Yet somehow he had been paying attention. Connecting pieces of their conversations she had not even realized formed a picture. The honest conversation after brunch. Ryan walked Emma to her car. The afternoon sun felt warm on her face, a contrast to the air-conditioned chill of the restaurant. That was intense, Emma said. I'm sorry. My mother can be a lot. She means well, but she's very protective. She's worried I'm after your money, Emma said flatly. Ryan stopped walking. She'll realize soon enough that's not who you are. Will she? Because from where I'm standing, this is exactly what it looks like. Regular girl dates billionaire. Everyone assumes she's a gold digger. It's such a cliche I feel like I'm living in a bad movie, and will write a better story, Ryan said firmly. Emma, I know this is complicated. I know my life comes with baggage and scrutiny and family dynamics that are sometimes exhausting. But what we have is real. What I feel for you is real. Can that be enough? Emma looked at him. At the hope and vulnerability in his eyes, at the way he held himself like he was bracing for rejection. She thought about the past week, about how he had called every day just to hear about her boring workday, how he had sent her articles about career transitions in creative fields, how he had remembered she liked lavender tea and had some delivered to her apartment with a note that just said, thinking of you. I'm scared, she admitted. I'm scared of your world. I'm scared people will think I'm using you. I'm scared I'll screw this up and lose something that feels really important. I'm scared too, Ryan said. I'm scared you'll wake up one day and realize dating me isn't worth the hassle. I'm scared my life will overwhelm you. I'm scared I'll disappoint you. He stepped closer, taking both her hands in his. But I'm willing to be scared if you are. Because, Emma, I haven't felt this alive in years. You make me want to be better. You make me remember who I was before the money and the pressure and the expectations. You make me feel like just Ryan again. The leap of faith. Emma felt tears prick her eyes. This is insane. We barely know each other. So let's change that. Let's take our time. No pressure, no expectations. Just two people figuring things out together. She thought about her ex's email about misaligned trajectories. She thought about her stagnant career and her safe, careful life. She thought about standing at Jennifer's wedding feeling like love had passed her by. And then she thought about Ryan's words from that first night. Sometimes you have to let yourself be vulnerable to find real connection. Okay, she said softly. Okay, let's try this. But I need honesty. No more secrets. No protecting me from your world because you think I can't handle it. Deal. Complete honesty from now on. Ryan pulled her close, wrapping his arms around her. Thank you for being brave enough to give this a chance. Emma buried her face in his chest, breathing in his familiar scent. Don't make me regret this. I'll do everything I can to make sure you don't. 6 months later, Emma sat in her new office, a bright, open space in a converted warehouse that Ryan had helped her lease, surrounded by sketches and product samples. 6 months ago, she had finally quit her marketing job and launched her own sustainable design company. It was terrifying and exhilarating and everything she'd been afraid to dream about. Ryan had invested in her company, though they had fought about it first. She had not wanted his money, did not want people to think her success was bought. But he had pointed out correctly that investors believed in good ideas, and she had a very good idea. He was just one investor among several. She was making it work through her own talent and determination. Their relationship had not been easy. There were photographers sometimes, gossip columns speculating about the tech mogul and his mystery girlfriend. There were fancy events where Emma felt out of place, and family dinners where she had to prove herself over and over. But there were also quiet nights at her apartment, morning coffee runs, long conversations about dreams and fears and everything in between. Ryan appeared in her office doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee. Thought you might need this? You're a lifesaver. Emma accepted the cup gratefully. How did the investor meeting go? Well, they're interested in the new project. He settled into the chair across from her desk. But enough about work. I have something to ask you. Emma's heart skipped. That sounds ominous. Not ominous. Just important. Ryan took a breath, and Emma realized he looked nervous. Remember that first night when you told me you were afraid you would never find someone who looked at you the way Thomas looked at Jennifer? Like you were their whole world. I remember being drunk and embarrassing, Emma said, though her cheeks warmed at the memory. I need you to know something. I look at you that way. Every single day. You are my whole world, Emma Hayes. You make me laugh and challenge me and inspire me to be better. You saw me when all I was to everyone else was a bank account. You gave me a chance when you had every reason not to. And I love you. I am completely, hopelessly in love with you. Tears filled Emma's eyes. Ryan, ... Not asking anything, he said quickly. I just needed you to know. Whatever happens, wherever this goes, you changed my life that night at the wedding. You made me believe in real connection again, and I will always be grateful for your courage. Emma stood and walked around the desk. She cupped his face in her hands, looking into those hazel eyes that had first captured her attention in a moment of champagne-fueled vulnerability. I love you too, she said. You make me brave. You make me believe I can do anything. And yeah, this is complicated and sometimes crazy, but it's also the best thing that ever happened to me. Ryan kissed her, soft and sweet, and full of promise. When they pulled apart, both smiling, Emma thought about that night at the wedding. About champagne confessions and unexpected connections. About taking a leap of faith even when you're terrified. Sometimes the best things in life happen when you stopped playing it safe. Sometimes you had to get a little drunk and pour your heart out to a stranger. Sometimes you had to be willing to look foolish in pursuit of something real. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, that stranger turned out to be exactly what you needed. Not because he was rich, or successful, or perfect, but because he saw you and loved what he found. Emma smiled against Ryan's lips. So, for the record, I'm very glad I went to that wedding. Me too, Ryan murmured. Best night of my life, even though I was a complete mess, especially because of that. He pulled back to look at her, his eyes warm. You were brave and real and perfect, and I knew right then I wanted to spend every day making sure you knew how extraordinary you are. Outside the window, the city hummed with life. Emma's designs sat waiting on her desk, proof that she had found the courage to chase her dreams, and Ryan sat beside her. Living proof that sometimes the most unexpected connections became the most important ones. It had started with champagne and confessions.
With vulnerability and risk.
And it had become something neither of them had been looking for, but both of them desperately needed. A love built on honesty. understanding, and the courage to be imperfect together, Emma leaned her head on Ryan's shoulder, content. Thank you for listening that night. For not running away when I was at my worst. That wasn't your worst, Ryan said softly. That was your bravest, and it changed everything.